It's now my pleasure to introduce the next guest we have, equally impressive, in fact, completely different perspective. They come from a CPG company perspective to share a perspective of how and what could be done. My pleasure to invite Sandeep Dadlani. Sandeep, welcome to the show.
Hi, KSV. Thank you for having me. And really, it was a pleasure listening to Barry. He's very impressive. I agree.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. But very interesting. Just to give an intro about Sandeep is important. He feels top of the world because India beat England in cricket recently. He's been a chief digital officer at Mars for the last from 2017 onwards. Very rich experience in digital transformation for several of their clients. And he's also embarked on a digital transformation journey for Mars to move from, say, a cloud operation operating environment native from the traditional on-prem native before. The first question I want to ask you, Sandeep, help us understand from a CDO role, where does CDO ends, where does CIO starts? Are they interwoven? Are they inseparable? If you can help us understand that.
Great question, KSV. I get asked that, and I asked that to myself several times. I don't think titles matter anymore. I think what matters right now is during these tumultuous times, how relevant we are to our customers, to our consumers, how fast we are collaborating with our partners and making business propositions live, which satisfy and delight and pleasantly surprise our consumers and customers. In that goal, technology, IT, digital, etc., is an enabler for speed. So, take the Mars context. We are a $40+ billion large conglomerate with, many businesses. Pet care. We're not a CPG company only. We're pet care and pet services. Pet hospitals is a big business for us. Chocolate and confectionery is a big business for us. Food is a big business for us. So whether you call yourself CIO or CDO or anything, the idea that technology, data, new consumer experiences are at the service of moving the entire organization at pace to meet and delight our consumers and customers, that's all that matters. Everything else is, gobbledygook on titles.
Fantastic, you said it. Fantastic, because we've been increasingly here, especially in the last 18 months, the way the pandemic is completely shifted, where the service is getting consumed, the service is getting delivered as undergone a chain. Is that the reason, or can you share your experiences when you moved recently from a data center to a cloud? What is the underlying objective? Was the objective to serve the customer faster, efficiently, or was the transition easy? Or is just one day you just switch off and switch on? A lot of planning would have gone through. The reason I'm asking this, Sandeep, several companies in India wanting to shift, but the effect of change is tough. If you can help us understand the effort of change that went through from going to a cloud from a data center.
So, look, great question, KSV. And, I have grappled with this several times in terms of how to explain the cloud journey to others around us. So Mars has been on this cloud transformation journey actually for the last 4 or 5 years. It's not that the pandemic created any sort of impulse to drive cloud in that sense. But the reasons we wanted to get to the cloud were very different. The best example I give is, people had these Kodak cameras with 32 pictures. And now we have these iPhones and Android phones, which can perhaps have unlimited number of pictures. It's not that, if you create a business case on cost, saying you can capture 32 pictures much more cheaply on the iPhone, sure, that's probably true. But because you're on the iPhone, you're now going to capture, 32 million pictures per se. And if there's value in capturing 32 million pictures, if you can capture your, special moments, great sceneries, family moments much more effectively now and create a fantastic experience for yourself, it's worth going to the cloud. If you're going to the cloud to capture the same 32 pictures again, cheaply, bad idea. So in Mars, we have taken a conscious journey, rightly or wrongly, to say this. We've said, look, cloud per se, taking our application footprint on the cloud is maybe it's a cost play, it's a scale play, it's an agility play. But I think the bigger, level benefit here is to take all our data onto the cloud. So when we started this, we actually started with an Microsoft Azure data lake, where we assimilated all data that we had, supply chain, consumer, customer data, onto a data lake. And today we've grown that to 2.5 petabytes and more. And frankly, if we had tried to do this on premise, it would have been a disaster, trying to keep this data secure,
right,
usable. And then if you want to take it a level higher, we are now launching in complete business models on the cloud. So now the pandemic comes into play. During the pandemic, when some of our retail partners were not operating, we had to launch more than 18 direct-to-consumer campaigns.
Yeah.
Just to give you a sense, we had about 4 or 5 direct-to-consumer campaigns before the pandemic, and during the pandemic, we had launched 18 in 12 months. The entire business model there was on the cloud. We started telehealth services in our hospitals. Vets don't like to see pets on camera. They like to hold them. They like to treat them. We started the entire telehealth story on the cloud. We started Treat Town, which was the whole physical activity of trick or treating during Halloween, on a platform on the cloud. So now if you now think about the 3 layers I talked about: applications on the cloud, data and analytics on the cloud, and then entire business models on the cloud. That level of speed and agility, that level of scaling, that level of then operating your entire business on the cloud becomes very interesting. We also found that as we moved some of our on-premise work onto the cloud on Microsoft data centers, Microsoft was buying carbon offsets for their data centers. We were moving our data centers to Microsoft Cloud.
Correct.
So we becoming effectively as a system more sustainable. So this was good for the planet, and this goes with some of the ambitions we have as Mars to be sustainable in a generation. So with this journey, we are now approximately, I'd say, 2/3 on the cloud as an entire company, 66% on the cloud. I think we feel relatively more secure compared to having our own setups everywhere. Now we have world-class partners that do this. And we feel that the ability to launch new business models, the ability to leverage data for insights, for outcomes, is far more powerful. It is not to take the original 32 pictures onto the iPhone.
So your 3-year preparation time completely enhanced your ability to accelerate the business model change during pandemic. Fantastic story.
Exactly. It does. All the investments we were making, all the scaling we were doing before the pandemic definitely helped us. And I think we are emerging now at I would like to believe we are emerging in a very powerful position to accelerate further.
My next question linked to this, perhaps I went through your website, you got a great goal of 100x, 100 times speed. What drove that? Is it a confidence that now the cloud is there, I can deliver? Or perhaps your customer preferences are changing, the cloud become an enabler? Or cloud is a tool, now it's helped me change my business model. What enabled what?
When I spent my first 3 months in Mars, I came to the conclusion, and I had worked with, dozens of CPG companies with their senior managements all over the world in my previous consulting roles. But at Mars, I came to this conclusion that this is a very unique company. We're very successful. We have a unique culture, and it's a very human culture. We hug each other. We are vulnerable with each other. We cry together. We laugh together. It's a family company, literally a family company.
Yeah, that's right.
And while we are very successful and we know what we're doing, we perhaps sometimes in a large matrix organization become a little too slow and a little too inward looking. And so I was at least clear, and the management teams of the leadership teams of Mars are very gracious and generous in aligning around this principle that we have to go faster. That's the goal. You could be in supply chain, you could be in e-commerce, you could be in brand, you could be in R&D. The Mars associates know what they're doing. They know how they want to go about it, but they're not fast enough. And sometimes you may feel that in your organizations and your audience's organizations. Oh, I wish we could be faster. So we said, regardless of how we leverage digital, we should try and point it towards helping our associates become like Wonder Woman or Iron Man, which is they retain their sense of humor, they retain the hugging, the crying, the laughing, but armed with their digital armor, they can move faster, and not move 10% faster or 20% faster, but 100 times faster. So it's
That's
unlocking
right.
that hustle, that human hustle within you to make it go faster. Cloud now plays a role. In fact, all of technology is then an enabler. But KSV, you know this. In the end, people like you and I have to unlock something within our hearts, within our minds, to make the next sprint happen in 2 weeks and not 2 years.
Exactly.
And that's the hustle that we were trying to unlock, and that's 500x. And frankly, I mean, I'm so pleasantly amazed at every Mars associate that took on this challenge of going 100x and is perhaps well on their journey of upskilling themselves. 30,000 Mars associates are today trained on advanced analytics tools. 20,000 Mars associates have learned design thinking at a very fundamental level. They practice it. And I have many other metrics to share. So, we are proud of the
Fantastic.
journey, but then again, there's a long way to go.
So technology efficiency has been a big mantra for your successes. They are fantastic. But linking that technology is a good enabler, as you've just illustrated. People are working from, you said 30,000 associates and 50,000 associates been impacted. They're working from remotely, multiple people working on the system, etc. Aren't you worried about the potential threats, potential security breaches that is required? It could be individual working at home. For example, one of the Barry's company, they were having possibly 1,500 people in one office in India. Now they have 1,500 locations where they're serving their customers, etc. There is an element of risk in that. Does it bring that element of risk, and how do you manage? If I was in first-time adopter of cloud, is it hunky-dory, or what do I worry about? What keeps me busy thinking about security?
No, look, I mean, information security, cybersecurity, even before the pandemic was a massive boardroom issue.
Yeah.
We were worried about it. In fact, and again, thanks to the Mars leadership team overall, we've made some very intentional investments in cybersecurity to help secure first our consumer and associate data. That's very important. Then our mission critical operations. And then as we make our growth clear in the hospital space, we are increasing our endpoint and surface area. And then, as you said, in the pandemic, you suddenly changed from a handful of endpoints to hundreds of thousands of endpoints in your home. I can see you're perhaps in a home, and I'm sitting at a home, and we now become additional endpoints, which can be vulnerability points. So we have attacked this through 3 or 4 ways. One is very sophisticated tool set, and you can't be paranoid enough in this space. You're as good as your next attack that hits you. We get attacked millions of times effectively every day. And our cybersecurity team, I'm so proud of them, Andrew Stanley and team, that really help secure our endpoints through some sophisticated tooling. The second we have is a fantastic partner ecosystem, a number of them in India, actually, who help us run cybersecurity operations, who help us simulate attacks and how we should behave during an attack. The third is awareness around our associates. In the end, we can use whatever tooling we want. In the end, we are as vulnerable as the next phishing email that goes to one of my associates saying, "Hi, I'm Sandeep. Can you send me a phone number? Can you send me a social security number?" And he clicks on the link, and we are doomed after that. So I think the awareness, scaling, phishing metrics, etc. These have become boardroom topics in every company. And I'm on a couple of boards, and I can tell you these are topics for that boardroom as well. So between sophisticated tooling, between clear risk prioritization, between a partner ecosystem and our awareness, we feel we are taking adequate steps. Now, this is a continuously moving game, and who knows what new threats come up tomorrow and how we deal with it. But we are trying our best to keep pace with it. Of course, there's local regulations and laws, which we are very, very conscious about. And we have a fantastic data privacy team and a legal team that helps us stay ahead of those as well. In the end, this is about our trust and responsibility that we carry with our consumers, our associates, and our shareholders. And this is one of the most important topics that we deal with. Thankfully, we are grateful for a very, very talented team of leaders that we have in this area.
Led by Sandeep Dadlani.
Not at all. I'm serving them more than anything else. This is a complex topic. So
fantastic. Yeah, just that brings me. Does the country, because you said that this industry is also getting into regulation mode. Does it worry you that California has got its own regulation, GDPR, Europe has got regulation? Do you expect this regulation will lead to a city-wise data, province-wise data, or region-wise data? Would that alter any of your architecture? After this, I have two questions to ask, and two questions that come from the audience. I'll pick up those questions after this question.
Sure. No. Look, listen. I mean, I think we've been following the regulatory landscape very carefully, and of course, there are specifics in California versus, China is passing some new rules, and we're a global company. We operate in 88 countries. So, following local regulations is not new for us in this area, or for that matter, any area. But ultimately, most regulations are pointing towards some 2 or 3 basic principles, which is one, when you capture consumer data, or when you have your data of your own employees and associates, treat it as if you are, handling the data on their behalf. They own the data. Treat it responsibly, treat it carefully, seek appropriate permissions for it, keep it secure, and then work your business models in an ethical, trusted way so that you don't lose trust among all these stakeholders. Essentially, every regulation points to this in one way or the other, in one language or the other. And luckily for us, we are guided by our 5 principles, in which quality, responsibility, mutuality, efficiency, and freedom really govern our day-to-day thinking. So even before any regulation comes in, we are extra conscious about how we collect the data. So we have a full data governance set up inside the company. It's a matrix organization, how data gets collected, who owns the data, who's the data asset owner. This kind of governance is perhaps as important as the tooling around the privacy and the security around it.
So the good cloud management policy is important.
Yes, the data on the cloud. Yes, absolutely. So the governance in the cloud for the data is important. Look, in the end, KSV, it comes down to leadership. You can put your data on the cloud. You can put your data on a computer on the side. Who owns it? How are we securing it? That's important. The advantage of cloud is now, if I have data on Microsoft Azure, I'm imagining Microsoft, and I know Microsoft will put in 100 times the investment on securing it versus just me as one company, even if I'm a $40 billion company. And so it's more secure, there's more talent around it, and so on. And so we feel a little more comfortable. But of course, we can never feel completely comfortable in this space. It's a moving target.
Fantastic. Before I was speaking to you, I pulled out with some of my friends saying I was meeting Dadlani. What questions would you like to have for him? The question they asked me is, you started the journey in 2017, 2021, both technology, the business, environment has changed. If you had to restart your cloud journey in 2021, how different it will be than what you were thinking in 2017?
I mean, I think the cloud journey, I'm very happy with being about 66% on the cloud, and the balance is frankly a matter of time. I think the important journey that we could have perhaps accelerated even further is our talent journey. So the talent surrounding the cloud, the talent that leverages the cloud, can easily go faster in driving even further business models. The pandemic was a good wake-up call in terms of moving faster, but hey, we could have moved faster 3 years ago, 4 years ago, even before the pandemic in that sense. So I think the big areas where I feel we could do better is make talent decisions faster around the cloud, because cloud is like a big weapon. Now, it's a question of using that weapon fast enough. And for that matter, other pieces of technology. Our AI journey is another one which I think we're very happy with, but we can go faster on. Today, we are using AI to help detect, dog cancer and disease conditions early We're using AI to help us with commodity buying and other areas. We're using it in about 200 plus use cases, but I feel we can do 2,000. Our automation journey has 300 bots all over the company, saving us more than 300,000 hours of work, freeing up our associates from menial repetitive tasks. I'm impatient. I feel we can go with 3,000 bots. So in many areas, we can go 100x.
Fantastic. That was wonderful, Sandeep, talking to you. Wonderful talking to you. The two big takeaways for me is that the 100x is real. 100x is not only a business goal, and many things could go possibly perhaps more than 100x. Talent was one of them. Second, what I like most in your conversation is the cloud governance, the entire governance in terms of who owns the data, etc. Tools only as good. The governance around it is equally good. I'm sure very soon when we meet the next time, the pandemic ends and we much sooner than you would tell me, hey, look, it was 66%, it is 99%. So with fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for your time. So the guest, audience, what it is here? You hear a real estate property management function talking about cloud governance, cloud utilization, a different one, and a CPG and food company talking a different one, two different perspective, all of them underlying the journey, what they would like to achieve wouldn't have been possible but for the availability of cloud. So what are we waiting for? Let's just pick up the thing, look at scale, look at impact, learn from the lessons, move ahead and be successful. Thank you very much for the time what you spent. Over to you, Vipul.
Thank you, KSV, Sandeep, and Barry for that very insightful discussion. Thank you so very much.